Welcome back to Yes, I'm Adopted. Don't make it weird. Today, we are going to be discussing a few common adoptive parenting fears brought to you by you, the people that answered the story on Instagram. We won't say your name or anything like that, but we are going to be going over a bunch of those different fears that a lot of people have been talking about. So, buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride.
Fun is relative. But before we get into all of that, we have been talking recently about a lot of the great resources that are available for you as anybody that's really just trying to grow as a human being. If you were watching the Weekend Update this last week, we talked about The Body Keeps the Score, which is a highly useful book and often referenced within the adoption community. So be sure to check that out if you haven't seen it already. And for that and several other resources that we have available, go check out our resource page at yesimadopted.com/resources.
So let's talk about the fears of adoptive parenting.
Let's talk about them.
How do they differentiate between regular fears of regular parenting?
Are you asking me that?
I'm asking you.
Is that what's happening?
I mean, I could
right
ask
now?
them.
You could, but then you'd have to wait like a week in order to gather the responses. It would take a while.
Tell me now.
Right? Like we've studied a lot of these things, right? So
Yes.
I've read at this point probably 20 books about just parenting because I am a parent and I really try to be good at the things that I am doing, right?
Good job.
And thank you.
Good job.
And I've also read, I don't know, probably 50, 60 books about adoption parenting or just being adopted or adoption topics in general.
Right.
And what's interesting is that by and large, guys, they're the same thing. Right? Like, adoption parenting has a couple of very specific issues that you have to deal with, specifically as it comes to, like, for instance, the quote, transracial adoption and stuff like that.
Right.
And then, infant separation trauma and those sorts of things that come up. But for the most part, parenting an adopted child is just parenting.
Right.
Right? You're the adult, make the decisions. Be the adult in the situation. The major difference that we're finding when we talk to adoptive parents today is that they just feel a lot more pressure.
Yes.
Than do non-adoptive parents, right? Because, like, I don't know, it's like all eyes are on you, and you actually have to, like, qualify to be an adoptive parent.
Right.
Whereas any person can just have, which is insane, by the way, any person can just have children.
Just pop out a kid.
Right? And there you go, and that's crazy. So,
yeah.
There's so much more pressure, or at least perceived pressure.
Perceived pressure.
I think, on adoptive parents as far as, like, raising their children and making sure that they're, I don't know, happy.
Happy.
I
Yeah,
suppose.
that was one of the big things. We did talk about goals. Like, we asked the question, what are the goals of your, like, adoptive parenting or parenting an adopted child? And, like, happiness was a big one for people. They want them to be happy. But we're not going to talk about that. We might hit that on the podcast about some of the different goals. Today, we're talking about the fears. There's a lot of fear when parenting an adopted kid. Now, I remember me as a child.
Sure.
I was a terror. Apparently, and I did not know this until much later on in life. As a kid, like as a baby, my parents would tell me to do something, and I would look at them and then do the exact opposite of what they told me to do.
Sure.
Like, Brett, don't go up those stairs. And then crawl up the stairs.
So far, this tracks.
Yeah. And I remember, my parents telling me that. I'm like, no, that wasn't me. And then I look back on my life. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was all me. Punk rock phase and all this other stuff. Like, that was me. I was a rebellious kid. But now, my kid, my kid is the exact same human being as I was as a child, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because she looks at me before she does the thing, and I'm like, hey, don't do that. Then does it.
Then she eats the cookies for breakfast.
Oh my gosh, this kid. Like, I love her guts, but, I mean, I don't see, I'm not an adoptive parent, but it's the same exact issue.
Sure.
Like that I went through as a kid that my parents went through.
Right.
And I'm trying to raise my kid, and the fears that I have for her are very well founded because, again, I know how I was as a child.
There you go. Right.
And if she turns out like me. So that's to say parenting is parenting, and fear is going to be there. But are you going to let that stop you from parenting your kid? It's a hard question. It's a hard question. Because a lot of the times we let fear get in the way of us actually being parents. Are they going to resent us one day? Are they going to be angry with us? Are they going to run away or whatever? It doesn't matter. Here's the bottom line. You don't know because you can't control your kid.
Can't predict the future.
You can't. You don't know what they're going to be like as an adult. You don't know what's going to, like stick in their mind or anything like that. You can just do the best that you can do, and that's about it. And it sucks sometimes.
Bam. By virtue of the fact that you at least think about it, it shows that you're trying, right?
Right.
Like, most people that aren't even thinking about stuff, they're probably the ones that are most likely to default into these terrible situations. But somebody that at least has the concern,
Right.
good for them that they
Right.
at least have the concern. And so therefore, hopefully that means that that's leading to some sort of action or some sort of doing of a thing. Right? And so we appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that as a parent. I think, like, as a kid, it's astounding how little you think about what your impact is on your parents. Because you basically don't.
Right.
Right? Like, even to this day, like, the only reason that I think about any of this as far as what my growing up was like as an impact on my parents is because we had these conversations. Because we're talking to parents today that are raising kids that are very similar to how we were as kids, because they have a lot of the same issues, or they're having a lot of the same thought processes because they're adopted. And that's the only reason I think about it.
Yeah.
Right? Outside of that, it probably would never come up. Like, because we don't tend to think about that, or as a parent, right? Like, I'm a parent, I have 2 kids, and I think about, the different levels of, like, I wonder if my parents thought that, right, when I was doing X, Y, or Z. But for me, so much of that is just like, I look at my kids and I love my kids so much that I'm like, oh, is this how my parents felt about me?
Right.
Right? That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy that they thought that, that they had these emotions, or that they had these thoughts about me as a human being that I'm having about them. And that's just the circle of life, right? Like, that's just how things go.
Yeah.
Now, to some degree, your kids are going to resent you because you are the authority figure in their lives.
But I want to go and do that stupid thing that all my friends are doing.
No.
Oh, I hate you. You're the worst. You never let me have any fun.
Yes.
Oh.
That's going to happen. Like, that's going to happen. And if you are not saying no to that situation because you want to be your kid's friend first, then we have a whole different set of problems.
That's a whole different thing.
Like, we're not going there right now. But that seems to be the primary concern. Like, we've read, I mean, how many responses did we get to that Instagram
We got
post?
so many responses. So many responses from you guys on the fears. And honestly, they all kind of revolved around a couple very similar topics. And one was the resentment.
Sure.
I don't want my kid to resent me for adopting them. Let me try to put your mind at ease a little bit. As a child, I didn't think about that at all.
No. The few times that I did, it was as a manipulation.
Yes.
Right? Like, if we're being honest about that, like, the few times that it might have come up, it was because I was trying to manipulate my parents into getting what I wanted.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, adoptees that are teenagers. I totally just outed your plan.
How am I supposed to get that now? Well,
I mean, shoot. Yeah. That makes me feel guilty.
It's not something like, we're... adopted kids are just kids still. Again, like, we have issues that we're going through. We have the trauma brain. We have a couple other stuff that we're dealing with. But adopted kids are still just kids. And they want that love, that care. They want that authority. Like, that's what I'm seeing. Like, I've been working with youth for a long time. And the one thing I always see is those kids that come from homes that have no authority crave that authority.
Sure.
It's just something that, like, whenever you tell them no, or you're like, hey, I had to discipline you because of blank, they always come back and they always say thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for doing that. It's heartbreaking, honestly, to me, that it's something that they thank us for because, you know, they don't get that at home. They don't resent us for disciplining them. They come back.
Right. There are things that as a kid or as a teenager I definitely was mad about. Mm-hmm. And that I understand as a 30-year-old. Right? In my 30s, I'm like, good Lord, what if I had done that? Oh, no.
I have that same exact thought.
What a terrible idea that was. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for not letting me do that. And I'm not going to give you the details on what that is.
But that is the responsibility of the parent, right?
Right.
To raise a well-adjusted adult.
Right. And in order to do that, you have to be a well-adjusted adult.
Yeah.
And that's hard in and of itself today. But that means that you're the one making the decisions. You're the one that's in charge. Whoever it is that is the adult in the situation needs to be the one making those decisions.
Yep.
Right? As adoptees, when you're an adult, you can make those decisions on your own. But in the meantime, it is the responsibility of the parent to make those decisions regarding how their children are raised. So do that.
Yeah, go do that. And while you're doing that, make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. You like that transition?
That was really good.
Right there?
Yeah.
I just jumped right into it.
You totally did.
So, thank you guys so much for joining us. We look forward to talking to you guys again on the Weekend Update and on the podcast. Make sure you guys check out our website, yesimadopted.com. We have the full list of videos, for better or worse, on the website.
You can probably skip season 1.
Or if you want a really good laugh and be like, who let these morons have a camera? Then go watch season 1.
Go watch season 1.
Because it's kind of entertaining.
And follow it through and then watch the rest of our videos as a company. They're all bad.
They're all bad. So thanks for joining us. Now that I feel better.
Yay.
And we will see you guys next week. Peace out. Hombre.